Writing this bad book is gonna be better than doing nothing. I wanted to share with you guys some of the results from publishing 2 books in the last 2 years and what I've learned from my process of publishing these 2 books in 2 very different ways. So to start off with, in 2018, our family finished hiking the Appalachian Trail. It was during the hiking process that I think I decided I really want to write about this. As soon as I got off the trail, I heard about a service that I thought could help me do this, and I was like, if I don't write this right away, I'm gonna forget this book. So I started this book immediately after that, which was around September 2018. And this process took like a year is going, and I'm on draft 3, 4, 5, 6, and then COVID hit. And what was going on was this book was taking so long, and there was like so many drafts and so many like going back and forth between this writing team that I had hired to help me organize my thoughts, because I had never written a book this large. This book is 400 some pages. It's very thick, with like 8+ characters in our family. And so I was a year into it, and then COVID broke out, and I was kind of like bored, like this book was moving forward. Anyways, bottom line was, I was like, I'm gonna write a book this next week. This was, I think, in March, right when COVID hit. And I spent a week, I posted on Facebook I was gonna do it. I spent like 3 hours or something, 3 or 4 hours every day, Monday through Friday. And at the end of the week, I published it on Google Docs and just like gave it away for free. And then within, I believe, another week, it was up on Amazon, and this was the result of that. It's a very short book, 100 pages. Most people can read it in about an hour. It's very thin, as you can see here. I worked at promoting this book for a week, and then I kind of like forgot about it and got back to work on this book. And then this book came out in November of last year, so it took almost 2 years to write. And I've been promoting this book for the last 3 months. So real quick, the titles of this book is called 2,000 Miles Together, the story of the largest family to hike the Appalachian Trail. Because it took 2 years and it cost me so much money, and I'll get into the details in a little bit, it kind of felt like I wanted to be like a masterpiece. This book was the exact opposite. I was like, I'm gonna have this book done in 5 days. I don't care how good it is, but it's gonna be out there and it's gonna be done. And like I said, I kind of forgot about it. Until recently, 2 things came up that about this book that prompted me to make this video. One is I was looking at the reviews. This book, I've been like busting my ass, and it just got more than 400 reviews. I've been like begging people, I printed business cards and put in every book. I've probably literally messaged people on Facebook and Instagram and asked literally more than 1,000 people who said they bought it or were gonna buy it, would you please leave a review? So I've like hoarded myself out in a major way. And like I said, I just crossed 400 reviews. But this little book, it actually has 200 reviews. Like 5-star reviews, actually, or it has an average of 5 stars. And I was like, wow. And I want to get into why that's really notable, specifically with the cost and the investment. But 200 reviews for this thing that took me a week means a couple things to me. It must be helping people, and people must like it. The second thing that happened was a family stopped by our house on Saturday. They had seen our videos, and they specifically had joined me for like an event that I did after I published this. It was like a book group. It was just like an hour, and I think I charged 10 bucks a person. This family stopped by and they said, the guy told me, his name was Lumen, he said, because of your book that you wrote in a week, I decided to write my book in a week, and I did it, and it's done. And I was like, wow, that is so powerful that something I spent a week doing can change someone's life who I've never met. All right, so first I'm gonna talk about the payoff of these 2 books, 2,000 Miles Together, and compare it with Unleash Your Family. I put 2,000 Miles Together as the payoff being great. It was a much bigger project. I've heard from so many more people. But Unleash Your Family, this is meh, had good payoff. And I wanna just share with you some numbers. Unleash Your Family sold 328 copies and made me $1,700. So not bad from 5 days worth of work. And it's still selling copies. It's still available on Amazon and our merch store. Plug the merch. 2,000 Miles Together, a much bigger project, has sold 3,500 copies. So this is about 10 times the amount as this. And in terms of money that it has made, in terms of sales, where this book only made $1,700, this book has brought in $31,000 in the past December, January, February, March, April, let's say 5 months, $31,000, which I would say is incredible. I mean, this is like above and beyond what I expected and hoped for, and it really was a great payoff, and I'm so glad that I did it. But I want to show you guys something else. Now I'm going to talk about the cost of comparing Unleash Your Family right here with 2,000 Miles Together right there. And as you can see, for Unleash Your Family, the cost is tiny. This project happened the week that COVID happened, and it took me 1 week long while everyone else was sitting on social media and freaking out. 5 days, and I wrote this book in time that I don't think I would have even noticed missing. Financially speaking, this book cost, I think, around $300 to get up on Amazon and Audible. It might be somewhere between $300 and $500. That was paying an audio engineer, that was paying an editor, and someone to help design the cover. Okay, compare that to 2,000 Miles Together right here. That cost was very big, to a point where, financially speaking, instead of $300, this book cost me $42,000 to write and promote. And that is not including my time being paid at all. That's not including opportunity cost. Now, yes, there are cheaper ways to do it, for sure. But that includes a professional audiobook, that includes a professional design cover, hiring a professional author, professional editing, professional layout design. The book is absolutely drop dead gorgeous and beautiful, in my opinion. There's graphics in there, a map. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out. But just to be completely transparent, it was not cheap in any way. Not only did it cost $42,000 financially, it cost me 2 years of my life. During these 2 years, I turned down almost every other major project in my life so that I could be on call for when manuscripts would come in and stay focused and turn around the manuscripts as soon as possible and just keep my mind focused on this book. It meant I stopped writing other books. I had ideas for 5 other books that I wanted to write in this time period that I was like, no, you have to wait till you push this, with the exception of this one that I just pounded out real quick, for that entire 2-year period. So the cost was so high that even though I told you over here in the payoff section that I made $31,000 in sales, it's still gonna take me to, because the cost is so high, it's gonna take me $11,000 more just to break even. I'm pretty confident that over the lifetime of this book, it's gonna do okay, but it has not broken even yet. So I wanna share with you guys my takeaways from comparing these 2 charts for these 2 books right here, and just what I've learned in looking at the 2 completely different ways I went about these books. The first thing is that trying to create a masterpiece, which is more this book, it's always resulted in disappointment for me. Now, I want to be careful when I say this because I'm extremely pleased with this book. Like I said, I actually couldn't be happier with how it's performed. But when you take the payoff and you stack it next to the cost, the payoff is not as high as the cost. it's easy to see like, oh, that payoff is super high, and it is, but when I look at how much it cost me to get there, both in time, money, and energy, working for 2 years to get, you know, I mean, if you look at $31,000, it seems like a lot. And like I said, I'm not trying to complain, but that's $15,000 a year so far in income. I've felt this way about a lot of projects in my life, not just books, like videos and other kind of creative projects. Almost every time that when I set the goal to say, this is gonna be the best thing of my life, I almost always have that letdown at the end. That it's good and it can be great even, but it almost never matches my full expectation of what I wanted. And at this point, I wanna pause and say, I'm not against projects that cost a lot or take a large amount of time, like large format projects. I'm not saying that short term is always better or that long term is always worse, but there's this idea that comes in my head about creating a masterpiece or creating my best thing. And oftentimes, when I know I'm gonna create the best, I always think it's gonna take more resources than I have, or than a project that is just kind of like an average project. And I think one of the reasons for this, at least why I spent so much time on this and why I'm drawn to create a masterpiece, is I really get wowed by this impact here, like having a great payoff. I want something here, because this is the thing that people talk about. This is the thing that gets made into movies. This is the thing that reviewers write about in different publications, which I've had a lot of publications write reviews on this. I've had no publications write reviews on this. It's easy to get suckered into wanting to create that masterpiece to really blow people away, but I want to talk about another point that I've learned. And that point is that finishing projects and shipping them generally results in more satisfaction than I expect. Finishing any project and just getting it into someone's hands almost always makes me feel better than I thought it would. And I want to tell you guys something else about this little book that I didn't mention before. While it only had 300 and something purchases, actually 2,680 people downloaded it on the Kindle app when I offered it for free in that first week, because I just gave it away. And those 2,000 people have been slowly leaving reviews and getting back to me and telling me stories of how it's changed their life. Even though the payoff doesn't seem like it's very high, like it just says it's like good, I want to compare that next to the cost. But the cost was tiny. You guys, I wrote this book in a week and I thought this is gonna suck. In fact, I kind of like jokingly-ish refer to this as like my shitty, sucky book, because I'm comparing it to this and how long it took me. But the weird thing is, because my investment was so low, it actually had the opposite effect. The results that I've gotten from it are much higher than I expected. For 1 week and 500 bucks, this book has made a pretty sizable dent in the universe for other things I could have done in that 5-day period. So it's not exactly fair to compare this book to this book. Like, a better question is, what else would I have done with that 5 days worth of time that would still be affecting me today? Because I'm still making money off of sales. And forget about the money for a second. People are still reading this book and people are still being impacted by what's on the pages. One other thing I didn't realize about how beneficial publishing this book would be for me is how it helped teach me so many things that would prepare me for this book. So I want to read just like a few of the things I learned in that 5-day process. I learned how to deal with Amazon KDP, like print on demand stuff. I learned how to got ideas for designing the cover. I learned how to promote a book. I learned how to ask people for reviews. I learned how to sell books on a merch store. I learned how to record an audiobook. I learned how to pick categories on Amazon. I learned how to get on a bestseller list. For me, like, the learning that took place in that 5 days probably outweighs the profit of the $2,000 or whatever, because I think those lessons were far more valuable to me than $2,000, because in the end of the day, they had a huge impact on how I recorded, how I promoted, how I asked for reviews, how I even wrote and finished off this book. Which leads me to my biggest takeaway from this entire thing. This book is good. I really like it. And I think it's better than this book, honestly. So, and I'm not gonna call this bad, but generally speaking, something that's good is better than something that's bad. Duh. But something that's bad is better than nothing. And there's so many projects that I want to start that are so big in their scope. They're basically masterpieces. That what I realize is happening is that this daunting task of taking on a masterpiece and possibly failing quite often results in me doing nothing. Instead of me just putting out something that's bad, and I say bad, but I'm saying that facetiously. One of the reasons why I say bad is because my goal in that first week I wrote this, the top priority was not quality. The top priority was finishing it in 5 days and having it done. Because I don't know if you're like me, but I have these things, these ideas in my head that have been there for months, weeks, sometimes years, and they nag at me. And I have this idea of wanting to make it a masterpiece, but realistically, especially when the ideas start stacking up, I realize I'm not gonna have time in my life for that many masterpieces. And I'm starting to feel like it might be better if I was just to spend a week or a month and do a quote unquote bad job at it, but be done, because it's better than nothing than to have a masterpiece that never gets finished. And so that brings me to this week and what I'm announcing that I'm gonna do. This book was published 1 year ago today. And the way I'm gonna celebrate it is by writing another bad book in the next 5 days. I've had this idea for around 3 months. It's really been nagging at me. It's about how I've had to overcome aspects of my previous faith and religion, specifically to improve my writing skills and being a writer. And I want to help other people who were raised in religious environments, but also want to become better at storytelling specifically, whether it's in music, writing, or verbal storytelling. I want to help them figure out by my observations of showing them ways that for me, I've learned that religion held me back from good storytelling. And I know this, writing this bad book is gonna be better than doing nothing. I just think that this is a whole different way that's been really helpful for me to think about writing. I'm proud of this book, but I'm also learning to be proud of these books. If I was to write, not that you can do 52 of these a year, but if you were to stack up and multiply, where'd it go? The payoff of 52 of these, and then times that by 2, so it'd be 104, it would blow this out of the water. So I'm kind of like going back and forth in longer format projects and shorter projects, but learning not to let masterpiece and perfection hold me back. Thanks guys, let me know what you thought in the comments. Go out and get it.